What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. We're going to do some daily price predictions and address some things that are kind of weird that are happening right now, and they make me kind of bullish, that's for damn sure. Hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, you guys, and let's get into it, my friends. Here we are. So, starting off the day here, looking at Bitcoin on a monthly chart. Let's actually do it on a daily chart, I'm sorry. 8 hours and 40 minutes left. We're at about 83.3K, and we're holding up rather well, which is not to my expectation. This is not what I expected. You want to know what I expected to happen after the Farif event on Wednesday after Liberation Day, as it's been proclaimed? I expected this to happen. What the stock market's doing. That's what I expected to happen. What I definitely did not expect to happen is that the stock market would drop like this and that Bitcoin would hold up rather well. I actually thought, yesterday there was a couple of people that were saying, Bitcoin actually held up rather well for the stock market dropping, and I'm like, you guys are coping. Bitcoin dropped while the stock market was closed, so the stock market had to catch up. But man, these copers might actually be right, man. It's interesting to see. The SPX S&P 500 is down 3% today, and Bitcoin is actually in the green. You don't oftentimes see this. In times like this, in times of uncertainty, in times of fear, which we absolutely are, in times of uncertainty and fear, right? Our crypto fear and greed index is pretty damn low. If it would just load 25, that's a pretty damn low area right there. But the stock market's down and Bitcoin's not. That's very interesting stuff, you guys. I'm not saying by addressing this, I'm not saying that we are absolved of going lower, right? That we can't go lower in this price. I'm just saying things are happening a little bit differently than I anticipated at first. And oftentimes, whenever you are supposed to move down, whenever you have all the reasons to move down or move up or whatever direction it might be, and you don't take it, oftentimes you actually go the opposite direction. Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but altcoins too. If we look at others, we look at the others chart here, because by extension of Bitcoin here. The average altcoin today is also neutral. While the stock market, the average altcoin, the average shitcoin, whatever you want to call it, they're holding up better than the S&P 500 is. What is going on? And it's just one day. It's not enough to really call for decorrelation or anything like that. But let's actually go over that. Let's talk about correlation. Let's see if we can figure this out here. Let's put on an indicator known as the correlation coefficient right here. Handy dandy indicator. Put it on the SPX, and let's see what we got on our readings here. Right. Apply. So for those of you that don't know, for those of you that are unaware, when you're at the 1, it goes between 1 and -1. When you're at the 1, you're very positively correlated. That means Bitcoin moves up, stock market moves up. Stock market moves down, Bitcoin moves down. -1 means inverse. Bitcoin moves down, stock market's moving up, vice versa. Okay, so there are periods where we are correlated and decorrelated, but for the most part, we are pretty damn correlated. We're definitely shifting to a phase right now where it might seem as though we're decorrelating, which would be kind of interesting, because we have a lot of reasons to believe that the stock market might continue to drop, at least until we get some kind of positive narratives, maybe around CPI data coming out on the 10th. Maybe it takes until May, whenever Jerome Powell announces quantitative easing and Federal Reserve interest rates coming down. Maybe we don't know. Maybe it takes longer than that. But if the stock market keeps going down and we're in this phase of beginning some decorrelation, we're not quite decorrelated yet, right? We're still in a phase of correlation here, but if we continue to see these readings come down, that could imply that the stock market drops and that Bitcoin doesn't. And that, you guys, that would be interesting. That'd be very, very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. Like maybe little tiny moments like that, but we've never seen a moment where the stock market really goes through some kind of crash and then Bitcoin doesn't follow suit. So, and this is kind of a big deal, right? I know a lot of people, for whatever reason, have been waiting for institutional money to come in for the president to talk about crypto, no matter who the president is. It could have been Joe Biden, but it wasn't. It could have been Kamala Harris, but it wasn't. It was Donald Trump to be the first crypto-friendly president. Regardless of who it is, everybody's been waiting for institutions to get in and for the government to be pro-crypto. I don't get why. We want it to be decentralized. We don't want it to be centralized. So the longer it remains out of their touch, out of their grasp, out of the public eye, the better. But whatever. What I'm waiting for, and what I think a lot of OGs are waiting for, what the prophecy has been that's been prophesized here, is that Bitcoin and crypto will decouple from the stock market. And when that happens, you guys, if that happens, I think it will happen at some point, but maybe times of decorrelation, maybe times of correlation. Of course, all markets, all money kind of run together, to be completely fair. But if that happens, you're going to see people flock to Bitcoin like they haven't ever flocked to Bitcoin before. You know, all the people are flocking to gold right now. Why? Because the stock market's being boring and gold is moving up. People want to pretend that they're flocking to gold because they're smart investors. Really, they're just chasing the pump. However small the pump is, they're just chasing the pump. That's all it is. They're pump chasers. This pump's going to be bigger. Bitcoin, gold's moving up. Don't get me wrong. Gold is valuable. It's very valuable. But crypto's faster. It's very much faster. And that pump's going to be bigger, which is going to attract more pump chasers. In other words, store of value like minds, people who are trying to be smart, right? They like to pretend like they're, and don't get me wrong, you are smart for investing in gold. I'm not trying to say that, but anybody who's recently invested in gold over the past few months, you're just chasing the pump. That's all it is, right? Anybody who will recently invest in Bitcoin and crypto, they're just chasing the pumps. If you've been invested since before this, any of this, you're not chasing the pumps. You're in it, right? You understand. And I'm going to get away from all this rhetoric here, but I think it's interesting. I can't think of a time really like this where it's not that I can't think of a time where Bitcoin's moved up and the stock market's moved down, or the stock market's moved down and Bitcoin's moved up. Little bits here and there. But on a straight drop like this, with uncertainty around the economy, around the world, people seem to be on edge with all this going on, and the stock market's tanking. It's clearly like this is tanking, man. And Bitcoin's holding up well. I can't think of one time that I've seen this. It's rather interesting, and it has just begun. We're only 2 days into this, so who knows how much it can persist. Maybe Bitcoin does come down with it at some point. I am still, at the moment, considering that we go down below $74K to $70,000, somewhere in that zone, from a low to a high here, 73.7K, $70,000 there, 1272 to the 1618. That's the expectation. And I think that will happen before the 10th of April. But you guys, I want to be very clear. If it doesn't happen by the 10th of April, I don't care if we move sideways until then. I can completely be wrong, man. If by the 10th I say, all right, at this point in time, I've got no reason to be bearish unless CPI data comes out negative, which I'm not anticipating, but it might. If it comes out positive, which I think it will, then I'll flip bullish, and then of course it'll dump. I should have stuck with my gut feeling the whole time, or it's not even a gut feeling actually. It's just statistically backed data. But also, again, going back to what I started the video saying, we should have dropped. I feel like we should have. We had everything right. We had everything going the right direction for lower prices, and we're just refusing to do so. And maybe it's too early to say that. Maybe we haven't waited enough time to let this play out. The call is still $73.7 to $70,000, 74 to 70K, specifically around 71 to 72,000. That's what I'm expecting. But I'm open to that not being as likely as it was maybe yesterday or the day before, right? The likelihood has gone down a little bit. It's still more likely, in my opinion, and the way to change that likelihood to less likely, to validate this as a low, the very first step that I would need to see is a close above this red line. We need to get above about $86,000. If you can close a day, any given day, above $86,000, and really 2 days in a row is the preferred method, but any day above there, I will start to think that the likelihood to go below this comes down a little bit more. If we close above 86K for 2 days in a row, the likelihood that this is the low comes in. If we close above 88K, we close above these daily closing highs for multiple days in a row, I will start to be very, very confident that this is the low. But until then, I'm not. Okay? And it might take more for other people, and that's fine, right? This is not the line in the sand. This is not the area of truth for every single person, and it doesn't have to be. We could move up here and then inevitably drop. Those targets could have happened all along. It could do some weird stuff. Bitcoin is anything but predictable at times. But I think regardless of who you are, bullish, bearish, whatever, if Bitcoin does move back up above this breakout point where we broke down initially, we had this long consolidation phase, our diamond pattern here. It looks like an eyeball, right? Or an eyebrow, maybe a unibrow, whatever you want to call it. If we get back above there, I don't think anybody in the market has a leg to stand on with any bearish sentiment at that point, right? Bullish sentiment will reign. If people are in doubt or if people are in fear at that point, they just have PTSD of this drop. They're in disbelief, and that's actually good. That fuels the fire to the rallies. We will be bullish long before we cross above this line, but the only reason I'm talking about this is I think at that point, if we are closing above this line, if we are at higher prices, if you're a bear still, you're in denial, right? Right now, if you're bullish, at least yesterday, if you were bullish, I thought you were in denial, but today, hey man, you've kind of got a leg to stand on. We'll see how it goes. Again, it's too early. The day hasn't closed yet. The week is not over, and not for Bitcoin, not for the stock market is it over, but we'll see how it goes. The FOMC, or not the FOMC, Jerome Powell meets to talk about the jobs report, jobs data here pretty soon. When does J Powell Is that how you spell his name? I don't know, man. J Powell talk. I think it's 2 L's. I'm gonna give it. I don't know. Talk about the jobs report data today. Let's see. Hit me with the deeds, Grok. I think like right now. I think it's gonna be like after this actually. Doesn't have a fixed schedule discussing every jobs report. Yes. But April 4th context today. Jobs report is released 8:23 UTC. Oh, wait. Has he talked? Okay, 11:30. Okay, that's what it is. 11:30 Eastern time, which for me would be right now, like literally this moment. So I'm probably gonna watch that and take a pause, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, let's get to some TA real quick, and then we'll finish up this video. Okay. Looking at the daily time frame. Getting rid of this correlation coefficient because we don't need it. We don't need you, correlation. Thank you for being here, though. Finding support on the 40, rejecting the 50, not a good look. But again, when you have a reason to go down, it's not a good look, and you just don't. Maybe you go up. Maybe you do have higher lows. Maybe you do have a flat top. Maybe this is an ascending triangle, and you break out of your overall downtrend that you've been in since December here. Maybe. And if you do that, man, that could be awesome. That could really, if we break out from here, you guys, we see prices above 88K, we're definitely taking those lower targets off the table. And I'm a little bit giddy. I'm a little bit excited for that, but I'm reserved still. I'm sticking with the downside until proven otherwise. That's just how it is. It's how it has to be, okay? It's a technical game we play. Daily time frame, not necessarily bearish right now, but not necessarily bullish. It's not giving us enough. It's pretty damn neutral. 4-hour time frame, I would expect to be the same. Let's see what we got going on here. Come on now. The 4-hour actually does look kind of bullish, if I'm being honest, right? Double bottom off the 40, rejected the 50, but coming up kind of neutral still, but overall I like the structure here. Overbought, not overbought. That does stand a chance to get overbought again. We'll see. 86K I think on a daily basis will matter there. What about the 1-hour time frame? 1 hour looks a little bit bullish. You're picking up volume down at these lows and you're not going anywhere. That makes me think you're going to reverse and go to the upside, actually. Interesting stuff, you guys. Something big might be brewing. The insiders might be aware something big's coming for Bitcoin, man. I don't know. And it is coming, regardless of if we drop here or not, you guys. Make no mistake, the beginning of the month, on April 1st, the call was that we would be at $111,000 or higher by the end of April. That's the call. Or at least around there, but 111K specifically or higher, okay? Even with the idea that we go down, we would still come back up and pump by the end of April. But man, maybe you're seeing a different side of me over the past couple of weeks than I've showed over the past couple of weeks here. 3-day RSI does look bullish, actually. I think it's set up to be very bullish. You just bounced off the 40. You are at this area here where you've found resistance coming down, right? You're bouncing off the 40. This could set you up for some big things here, you guys, if you continue to go higher. Again, closing above 86K would be a big deal for 2 days in a row. 2 days in a row. And 2 days in a row for validation, for confirmation on a fib basis, for a movement basis. But also 2 days in a row would give us a close on the 3-day time frame at that area, which would likely give us a close above this line as well. Big things. Weekly RSI, it's set up to be bullish. The 3-day is not necessarily bullish in itself, but it's set up to be bullish. Same thing with the 4-hour and the daily. They're not necessarily bullish, but they're set up to be bullish. Weekly time frame, if we're being honest, just looking at the data, we found support here, and we're finding support here now. And every single one of these times, right, down here, that was the low. Down here, this was the low area. And down here, this might be the low area, man. And even if we do still go down, I think it's going to be a rapid recovery. This is still the low area. We can still move down, and it's still the low area. So don't be discouraged. Just also don't be too excited. We haven't seen enough either way to validate that we're going down or that we're going up yet. I still am leaning to the downside if we're just being honest. And I got nothing else to say. I hope the message is received clear. So I'm going to end it there. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm going to watch the money printer man talk about money. So, all right, bye-bye.